So, hey, hello everyone. So, we are going to focus on our AC-900 examination. For that, today we are starting about the Azure Storage. That is one of the most critical, chapter for the examination point of view, and it will also help you to have more grasp over your Azure. So, if you learn Azure Active Directory storage and networking, so like these are the basic core services, and if you know all these are services, so your grip like in Azure, it, it will be very good. So today we are going to read or we are going to see about the Azure storage. So before understanding Azure storage, in fact, what is a storage? A storage is nothing, it's just a device. Okay, it's just a device where you can put some sort of data. So if I just tell you examination, so currently if you are using the Android, so you might be using the Google storage, correct? That is the Google Drive. If you are having iOS, and then you might be using iCloud Server. In the similar way, you have the same features as OneDrive for Windows operating system. So all these are examples of nothing, just a storage. So in the similar way, in our Azure cloud service, we have a service that is called Azure Storage. And now let's see what in fact it is. So the first thing is that whenever you create a storage account in Azure, so it is always unique. You go to portal, and once you create a storage account, so if you again go to portal and again want to create the Azure storage with the same name, and Azure will not accept it. So these all things are written here. And the important thing about the Azure storage is that it is the first thing that it is having a unique namespace, and the data can be accessible from anywhere over the HTTP or HTTPS. And now Azure keeps your data secure, it will be higher level, durable, and yeah, scalable as well. So this is about the naming convention of Azure, that you should have characters between 3 to 24, and you can only use the lowercase and number. So it means there is no capital letters and no special characters are allowed while creating an Azure storage account. Yeah, it must be unique. So due to this uniqueness feature, we have something called endpoints. For example, so in your Azure storage service, you have these many features. For example, you can create a blob, and you can use the features of data lake, storage, and to can use Azure files, queue storage, table storage. Let's say if you keep your storage account as ST, that is ST stands for storage account and demo. And if you create the storage account with this name, so what you can do, you can go to a browser, you can write https colon forward slash htdemo dot blob dot co dot windows dot net. So by this website, you will you will able to access the content of your Azure storage account. But here is a catch. By default, you choose private, you choose the private scope. So to accessible it through HTTPS, so you need to just change it from private to public. In the similar way, these are the features which we'll be discussing later. Now let's go ahead and let's see the type of like basically in standard purpose what we get in premium file share and the premium page blobs. So all these type have their individual use cases, but widely this fulfills our requirement because if you see here, like it first of all it supports almost all the features, and additionally you have multiple redundance option. You can go with the lowest, you can go with the highest as well. And so basically it supports the blob file shares, queue tables, and it is widely used for most scenarios. And also it supports the network file system, that is NFS. The premium block, premium file share, and premium page blobs have their own use cases, and these are the redundancy options which they support. And here is a small use case about these. So it's just a thing to rate. So now let's look at Azure Blob Storage. So when you create a storage account, so there you get four service, that is blob, file, queues. Okay. So among them, one is Azure Blob Storage. So here, so first of all, it is an object storage solution model. And inside your blob storage, you can contain or you can store any type of data. So you can store a massive amount of data. Your data could be either in the text form, binary, could be either audio, video, backup files, images, text files, anything. And now Azure Blob storage is used for the unstructured data. There is no restriction of any kind of data. So basically, you can hold any type of data and you can upload and download various kind of data, and even you know Azure provides some good flexibility. So if you choose the proper mechanism, so your data retrieval will also become quite faster. So now the next topic is about Azure Blob Storage Access Tiers. So 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 basically you just need to remember, so there are three tiers in which the data is stored. It could be hot, it could be cool, it could be archive. So hot gives you maximum cost, cool gives you some lesser cost, and archive is the lowest. But here is also catch that I will just celebrate you later. So if you are so let's say if you like this is your server machine, and here you have kept some audio, video, and some text file, and you created a website called www something. So now users will go to internet and they will just write. So if they want to download the file from your server, so in that case, you should choose hot access tier because uh, you know mm, you want your users to have your files at, at the minimum time. So that's why you use the hot access tier. So here the data is accessed quite frequently. So that's why you use the hot access tier. But let's say, uh, let's say you have deployed a what I would say, let's say you deployed a web server, but that will not be used frequently. It will be used once in a 30 days or once in a 40, 50 days. So in that case, the cool access tier will be suitable for you. Why you should use this? Because it will provide you less cost. Okay. And now let's say if you want your server to be accessed once in a while, like once in a few months, or it could be might be a year. So at that time, having the archive access tier would be the best for you because it gonna give you the expenses or the cost will be very minimal. Okay. Yeah, so this is appropriate for the data which can be rarely used, or you are just storing them for audit purpose, or just to see like if anything goes wrong. Okay. So the next topic which we will be covering is, so now let's see more about the Azure Blob Storage Access Tiers. So I was telling that there was a cache. Okay, so there was a cache. So see, only the hot and cool access tiers can be set up at account level. So whenever you are creating the storage account, so at that time you can only get either the hot or cool access tier. The archive access tier, it is not available at the account level. Once you create the storage account and once you do all the setup, then only you can change your access tier from hot or cool to archive. Hot, which needs to be accessed frequently, cool, which needs to be accessed infrequently, or you can say lesser. An archive is that which will be used once in a while, or either you can say it will not be used. Okay, so yeah. So who a hot, cool, and archive can be set at the blob level during or after the upload. Okay, so once you upload anything in your container, so yeah, you can change it. So now data in the cool access can tolerate slight lower availability. So let's say if you have some data here, data number D1, and if let's say similarly you have data D2 in cool tier and data D3 in your archive tier. So if you want to access this data, so you can immediately download this file, whatever is present in this hot access tier. But if you want the data in the cooler tier, so it will not be faster. Okay. So even you will have some lower availability of SLA. Okay. And let's say if you want your cool tier data, so now what you need to do, you need to pay something to Azure. Azure will deduct some amount of cost to retrieve the data from cooler, and that will be quite higher. And let's say if you want to access your data from archive, so it will cost you very much. See, storing the data in hot is expensive, cooler less expensive, archive is more less expensive even than cooler. But the retrieval of data is the lowest here, higher here, more higher here. So just to summarize you, let's say this is your hot tier, this is your cool tier, and this is your archive tier. So the data stored, so the data stored cost is maximum for your hot tier, but the data retrieval, that is DR, it is maximum for archive, then for cooler, then for hotter. So we should choose wisely the tier of our database depending upon the business requirement. So now the next topic is Azure files. Okay, so these Azure files, they are fully managed service, and there are two standard protocols which are industry is following, that is NFS network file system and SMB server message block. So the Azure file shares can mount concurrently by cloud or on-premise deployments. Okay, and if you use the SMB file share option, so here this SMB Azure file shares, it can be accessed from Windows, Linux, or Mac. It supports all the operating system. But whereas if you see the NFS, it supports the Linux and Mac clients. Okay. And sometimes what happen, even you can use the server message block SMB. It can be cached with the Windows server with the Azure file sync, or the fast near access where the data is being used. So SMB sometimes it you know it basically stores the data in the cache format so that your retrieval become faster. Now the next topic is queue storage. So uh, queue is a service that is basically used for storing a large number of messages. So once you store, you can access the messages from anywhere via world by authenticated calls. So by the help of HTTP and HTTPS, you can see your queue storage data. So a queue can contain, you know, lots of message. It can be even in the millions as well. And each individual message can have size up to 64 kilobyte. So they are commonly used to create a backlog of work to process asynchronously. Okay. And sometimes if you combine your queue storage with the Azure functions to take an access whenever a message is required. So now the next topic is Azure Migrate. So to move your data from your on-premise to Azure, so Azure makes this facility very, I would say, easier or very convenient. Azure just say that please use our migration platform. So to move the data from on-premise to cloud, Azure basically supports or it gives a lots of facility. If you want retrieval of data to be done at a optimal cost or more securely, or I would say more fastly or efficiently. So Azure says that we have multiple services, just use them, and by that you can easily migrate your data from on-premise to Azure. So let's take a look on one of the services, one of the storage service, that is Azure Data Box. So now let's say if you have a very huge amount of data and you want to migrate that to Azure. So in that case, you can use the service called that is Azure Data Box. Even the terabytes of data can be moved very efficiently at the minimum cost. Okay. So this is actually a physical migration service. So that helps us to migrate a huge amount of data in a more reliable, and it is very inexpensive as well. So we need to set up the device local web UI and we just need to connect it to our network. So if you are transferring the data into Azure, so the data is automatically uploaded in the Microsoft to receive the data box back. So this is really a like physical type of service. So there are some use case of Azure Data Box uses. For example, if you want to do one-time migration from anywhere, it is bi-directional. Like if you want to move the data from on-premise to Azure or even from Azure to on-premise, the both way it is bi-directional service. So if you have some offline media files and you just want to keep them online just by moving them to the cloud services, so yeah, you can use this service. So if you want to migrate your SQL Server applications and virtual machines, and if you want to use this service that is called SD Insight, so once you move your historical data, so you can use this particular SD Insight service from Azure, which can be used for the depth analysis and reporting purpose. So you have a lot of data stored with yourself from the past few years. Now you simply want to change your platform, so use this Azure Data Box uses. And even for the periodic blocks, like once in a month, that can be used. So Azure Data Box scenario to export data from Azure. Okay. So let's say if you have something a disaster thing, so you can use the service and security requirements as well. And if you want to back to on-premise or to any other cloud provider, then also this service will help you. Now let's look at AG copy. So this is nothing like this is just a Azure service which helps to move data across your network. In simpler words, you can say it is used to move your data across your networks. Yeah, this service is used AG copy. So the AZ copy is a command line utility that is used to copy blobs or files from your storage account. So you can either download, upload, or you can move the files between your storage account and even you can synchronize them by the help of AZ copy service from Azure. And it can be configured to work with other cloud providers. So basically, not only to Azure, even to some other services, you can use a feature of AZ copy and it will help you. Now the next topic is Azure Storage Explorer. So inside the Azure portal, you have something called Azure Storage Explorer. So this application can be either downloaded or some preview or browser version of this application is also available once you go to Azure Storage. Simply search for this. So this is a standalone application and it is in the GUI format that helps to manage the file and blob storage from your Azure Storage account. It works with all the operating system. Okay, and it can use the AG copy on the backend to perform all of the file and block management task. And one more thing about this is that So if you want to upload any data to your, I would say, storage account, if you use this Azure Storage Explorer, so once you upload any file, so it only takes few seconds for the huge amount of data. So yeah, basically you can upload, download, or move the data between across your storage account by the help of Azure Storage Explorer. So let's take a look on Azure File Sync. So this is a tool that is used to centralize your files in Azure Files and keep the flexibility, performance, and of Windows file server. So it's just a centralized way from where you can basically move your files across various other devices, and it will also sync your, I would say, data, and even it will help you for the more faster retrieval of data. Let's say the file is present here, and if you want to move it to some other places, and if that is used quite frequently, so it will do a cache. It will store the data on its server for the temporary basis, and you will say it is a bidirectional sync with your files in Azure. Okay, so now let's take a look on the important questions which have been taken directly from the Microsoft side for the AZ-900. Which tool automatically helps uh, keeping the files between on-premise Windows Server and Azure Cloud environment updated? So the correct answer is Azure File Sync. As we see, between your on-premise and Azure Cloud, if you use this service, so your data will be in sync. Let's say if you add a text file in your on-premise, that same is also going to reflect on your storage account or on your Azure as well. The service is Azure File Sync. So which storage redundancy option provide the highest degree of scalability with 16 nines of durability? So the correct answer is geo redundant storage. Next question is, which Azure storage service support a big data analytics as well as handling the text and binary data type? So the blobs, so they can store any type of data like the text, binary, and even it can be used in data analytics. So the explanation is also given like the Azure file sync maintain a bidirectional sync between your on-premise and cloud. So this GRS and ZRS, they both support 16 nines durability, and Azure blobs, they are massively scalable object store to store the text and binary data, and they also support the big data analytics through data lake Gen 2 services. So thank you so much for watching the video. Have a great day. If you have any questions, so you can write them in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them.